Social Security is a pension. We don't always think of it that way, but it is. You paid into it your whole career, and out comes a payment to you for the rest of your life and
Yeah.
your spouse's life. So that's how it works. Even if your spouse, CD Financial, where health meets wealth.
Welcome back to the CD Financial Podcast. CD Financial, where health meets wealth. I'm Marcus Castillo, your host, and that is, as always, Chuck D, the man with plan. Chuck, how you doing today?
Fantastic, Marcus. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I have no complaints yet. Happy to see you back here.
Sweet. Happy to see you too. It's always a pleasure to be with you. So, Marcus, today I want to talk about Social Security, especially as it relates to widows' benefits and spousal benefits. And the reason
Fantastic.
I want to do that is because, yeah,
No,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say that sounds like a great topic.
Because it's a pension. It's a
Absolutely.
pension. Social Security is a pension. We don't always think of it that way, but it is. You paid into it your whole career, and out comes a payment to you for the rest of your life and your spouse's life. So that's how it works. Even if your spouse never worked, they actually, I know this because I talk about my in laws. My mother in law, very hardworking lady. But when it comes to actually being employed, I think at TI down in Texas, in Dallas, for a couple years, and then she got married and she got pregnant. She started having my wife and then her kid brother. So she was a homemaker and she did a lot for the kids. But she didn't work for 10 years. And by the way, Marcus, that's the vesting period is 10 years or 40 quarters that you have to work under Social Security to be vested or to earn enough to get a Social Security payment.
Interesting. Real quick point in Spanish, the word that they use for Social Security, they refer to it as a pensión or a pension, right? So it is,
Really?
that is the way to think about it. Yes. So oftentimes
what it's called.
You just refer to it as pensionado, or that's it. You use the word pension. So they think of it in terms of a pension plan. You are correct.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so just to back up real quick, because you're already getting into stuff as far as like benefits go with the spouse. You're saying that even if the spouse is not working, that there's some benefits there?
Absolutely. So going back to my in-laws, for instance, or my mom, come to think of it too. Yeah. So let's say my benefit, I've worked my entire working years and I get a $3,000 Social Security payment. My spouse, if they didn't work, would qualify for half or $1,500. Now that's oversimplified. It depends on if you wait till your full retirement age, like 66 and 10 months, 66 and a half, 67, or you file early, like let's say your wife or husband filed at 62 and you're at 65. But to oversimplify, to make it clear, your spouse qualifies for half. So let's say, I think the minimum benefit now, I'm not even sure. Let's say $600 and you have a $3,000 benefit. And let's say my wife has $600 benefit. Well, she'd file for her benefit. And then the additional $900 to give her half of mine would be paid technically through my own benefit. But that's how it works. Even if your spouse didn't qualify, they will qualify for half of your benefit.
That's interesting. So let me ask this. Does that apply like day one? Like I'm married to, I get married to somebody and I'm married to them for a week or two or a month or a year, or is there a time frame that I have to wait before that actually applies to me?
Well, there's a 9-month window so that folks cannot sell off their benefit, let's say. There's a 9-month window that you have to remain alive if you're married before there's any spousal benefit. But in that case, you wouldn't get half of your spouse's benefit. If there's a widow's benefit, you would actually be able to elect. Let's say that again in that scenario, there's $3,000, and then one of the spouses has half as much, $1,500. If one of them dies, let's say the one passes away for the $3,000. Then the other spouse has to go to the Social Security office or online and elect the larger of the two benefits. So that's a spousal
Okay.
benefit as well. But
All right.
let's talk. So just to be clear, right? You have to elect for the greater of the two benefits. And so that's why in
Okay.
Social Security maximization plan, we like for the one benefit that is less earning, oftentimes to elect sooner, and the one with greater earnings to maybe delay longer in their life. So that's an idea, but that's not always the case because maybe the one with lower earnings is much older than the other one. Usually not. Usually we see the older of the two in the marriage is usually one that makes more. It's not always the man, but oftentimes is. But a lot of times nowadays we're seeing the women making a lot more than the man too.
Yep.
So, it's a generalization, and I try to stay away from those as much as possible because everybody's family dynamic earnings record
It's a little
is
different.
different. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sure is. So let's
So
talk about the Marcus. I wanted to talk
yeah,
about the widower's benefit or widow's benefit. I'm
perfect.
sorry, either one.
Either one, widow or widowers. So how long do you have to be married to someone before that actually applies?
Yeah, again, it's a 9 month window. But let's talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. If we're talking about widow's benefit, no, we're talking about 10 years that you have to
Okay.
be married to somebody in order to file for a widow's benefit. Now I'm hearing you correctly. I'm slowing it
Yes,
down a
that's
little
the
bit.
question.
Yeah. You have to be married for exactly 10 years or longer. So the date of marriage and the date of
Hmm.
divorce has to be 10 years or longer. So
Okay.
let me tell you a story. Um, she lives here in Southern California in the Los Angeles basin. And I always ask, I said, were you married to anybody for 10 years or longer? And yeah, the kid's dad, I go, was it 10 years? Yeah, it was like 11 and a half years. I go, really? Well, so how's he doing? She goes, oh, he's doing okay, but he's back in New Jersey. I go, okay, just let me know if, and I don't want to sound morbid or even mean or evil about your ex spouse, but I
Yeah.
want to know if they ever pass away.
Yeah.
I want to be informed.
So why
So
why would that
in
matter? I mean, what?
Yeah, in her case, he did pass away like a year and a half later. She was still working, and I said, "Really? He passed away?" "Yeah, he did." I go, "Well, now we can layer it into the plan." "Well," she said, "he didn't work that many years, and he didn't make that much money." I go, "Well, why don't you go down to the Social Security office? Do you have his
Yeah.
his name, his birth date, his Social Security number?" She said, "Yeah." I go, "Well, go down there and get an estimate of what the widow's benefit might be." I go, absolutely do that. She goes, really? I go, really? Go down there and find out.
So this is, you're saying that this would still apply even if that person remarried?
Okay, so she had not remarried, but if you have remarried, here, let me see, Marcus. I want to get this spot on. So let me tell you what it says from the Social Security office, SSA.gov. If you're divorced, your ex spouse can receive benefits based on your record. Even if you have remarried, your marriage lasted 10 years or longer. But if you remarry before age 60, you cannot collect benefits on your former spouse's record unless your later marriage ends. So if it ends, you can do that, which reminds me of something else too. And then we're going to come back to the widow's benefit. And it works for
Okay.
men too, widowers. Um, if you earned very little, and let's say your mate earned a whole lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
half of their benefit, you can file for half of their benefit. Um, and if let's say you earn hardly anything and your benefit's $800, right? And your
Right.
spouse's benefit is $4,000. You can file for a spousal benefit that will more than surpass your own benefit. So as long as you haven't remarried, as we've said, before age 60, then you can file for a spousal benefit and you can reap those benefits. Now, if you're thinking, I'm going to sock it to my ex-spouse, that's not what's going to happen here. They could have been married, let's say 10 years or longer, 3 times. and each one of the ex-spouses could file for a widow's benefit if it's in their best interests. Yeah, and it won't affect the payout for the former spouse at all. It's just a benefit that's available to you.
Interesting. So it's just something that you just have to be aware of, and if it happens, then you got to go in and apply and take advantage of that.
Yeah, so let's
So is that
go ahead.
what would happen if you take the benefit before full retirement age? Because you kind of alluded to that,
Well,
but
okay, so let's go back to the story of my friend, client in Los Angeles. They couldn't take the widow's benefit, although if you're not working, and I say not working, you can take it as early as age 60, the widow's benefit. Even if you've divorced, you can collect that benefit. But the reason for her not wanting to do that is because she was still working. So the cutoff, let's say it's around $23,000 in income. If you start to collect a benefit, they're going to start taking away money for every dollar you make above that. Well, in her case, being a GS employee of the federal government, making a 1310, like $150,000, she wouldn't receive any benefit. But we layered into her plan that when she retired, you better believe the moment she retires, she's filing for a widow's benefit. So she could collect,
okay.
in this case, yeah, it was like $1,350. Now, Marcus, do you know why that matters? At 63 and a half, she's collecting $1,350. But what's happening to her own benefit? She made a lot of money for many years. So what's happening to her own benefit every year that she delays?
So it's going to be going up. Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to go up, up, and up. And what happened in her case was now she's approaching, say, 66. She's starting to talk about file for her own benefit. But based on the longevity of her parents, she's probably going to make it into her 90s. I'd like her to delay as long as we can because what happens is from 62 to 67, your benefit goes up by about 5.5 to 5.75 percentage. But from 67 to 70, it goes up by 8%. And so that
Mm.
looks pretty tasty if she was to delay. So in her case, we can get her at least at this point in her life over $3,000. So she'll go from 1350, where we may have to have laid into the retirement savings plan to get income. We have to lay into that pretty heavy, but only for a limited period of time. If she files at 68 and she had 4.5 years of leaning on her portfolio and her retirement income, now we can trigger that event. Maybe it's $3,200 at 68, 68 and a half. And now she's got a pension that's increased a whole lot just because of
Wow.
that. Yeah, just in the last year, we've been able to do this several times, where we've done the widow's benefit, and the widows had no idea they could do that. And it also, of course, works for a man as a widower as well. So it's a
Mm.
win-win all the way around.
I would dare say, Charles, there's a lot of people that don't know they can do that. I would guess that there's probably a lot of opportunities for those who've had those circumstances, right, where they've lost their mate and just they don't realize. They probably think that now I'm on my own, right? Social Security
Yep.
wise, I get my own pension, but I'm not getting anything else from he or she. Depends on who their spouse was, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing too: the Social Security Administration is not going to reach out to you if you had an ex-spouse that passed away, right? They're not keeping track of that. They're not chasing you down and saying, "Hey, hurry up! You got
Yeah.
a widow's benefit that's coming to you." They don't do that. In fact,
The
when you
government.
go into the Social Security office,
No, I was going to say the government doesn't call you to tell you, hey, we've got free money for you.
in fact, they used to automatically give you the larger of the two benefits.
Yeah.
When your spouse would pass away, if you were still married, they would just automatically do it, but now they don't. You have to go down and elect the larger payment. So if you're still married
Oh,
and your husband or your wife has a bigger payment, you have to go down there and say, hey, I want to dump my lower payment and get the bigger one. Can we do that like pronto right now? So, and another point, Marcus, is that
yeah.
at the Social Security Administration, they're not going to try to figure out all the nuances for you. All they'll do is present your payments to you. And if you don't know enough to tell them about an ex-spouse that may have passed away, they're not going to know about it. In fact, they're not supposed to tell you what to do because they could get into uh, uh, legal implications for recommending one strategy or one age over another.
Right. It
So there's
becomes
that.
financial advice at that point, and they're not supposed to give you financial advice.
Yeah, they're not
That makes
supposed to give you that kind of advice. They could put their job in jeopardy. So
yeah.
um, let's talk about another scenario. I have somebody that I help and I work with, and she's from the Andes. They're very long longevity in her family. I'm talking
Yep.
like maybe triple digits for her. Yeah, and we created a plan because she was married to her husband for a long time, the husband of her father of her two kids, and so we knew well ahead of time she wasn't divorced; she was a widow, and so I said, "Listen, here's the plan. You're going to go down to the Social Security office and you're going to ask for your widow's benefit and you're going to delay your own benefit till age 70." She says, okay. She went down to the Social Security office. Do you know what the office told her?
What did they tell her? I have no
You
clue.
can't have that benefit. You can't have that benefit, they told her. You don't qualify for that. Now, she met with me again and I said, that's just not true. What I want you to do now is I want you to go down to the Social Security office and I want you to ask for the manager. Every office has a manager and an assistant manager. I said, ask for the manager. They'll know what you're trying to do. She went down to the Social Security office again. Guess what they told her the second time?
That she could do it.
No, they told her again she couldn't have the widow's benefit.
So did she
Exactly.
reach
It
out to
was
the
a different
manager?
nightmare.
Yeah.
She was talking
Did
to
she
the
reach
manager,
out
and the
to?
manager told her this was the store manager that told her she could not have the benefit. So
Huh.
again, she came back to me. This time, she called me from the parking lot in tears. And I told her, that's just not true. That's not true. At that same time, the manager of the office called my office and left a voicemail where she said, we misunderstood what kind of a benefit she was applying for. We're going to we're going to start her
Ah,
widow's benefit now, and all is right as rain. Now,
nice.
Marcus, it's like this. Marcus, if she hadn't known and she hadn't had a plan, hadn't got professional counseling here, what would have happened to
Yeah.
that widow's benefit?
Yeah, it just goes by the wayside. I was just you made me think of that exactly. I was thinking, how nice is it to have someone in your corner that's going to help you watch out for stuff like that because that's a good chunk of money she's losing out on.
Yeah, so poof, up in smoke would have went that benefit. She'd have triggered her own benefit. And let's say it was like $2,300. That's it. That's all she would have got. Now her benefits at about $3,600, $3,700 a month. Do you
Hmm.
think she's happy?
Yeah, absolutely. An extra 1,400 does the body good.
Yeah, it sure does. And the whole time she was collecting the widow's benefit. So she was getting something out of it while she waited till age 70. And in her case, it was about 6.5 years that she collected the widow's benefit. Then she was able to bridge to her own benefit. So that's a little something. There's something else I want to mention here. Um, yeah,
Please.
so there was a couple that I was helping, but they had never married, and he didn't have that big of earnings, but the wife did, or the wife, let's say the domestic partner did, but they never married. And so when she passed
Hmm.
away, she was still working, and she was past her 62nd birthday. She was still working, and what was upsetting to me is she was a federal employee. If they'd have just put a ring on it, then he would have qualified for her widow's benefit from Social Security, and he would have qualified for the federal pension. It would have been based on half of her
Hmm.
pension as if she would have been eligible to retire at that moment, which she was. She was beyond her 62nd birthday. He'd have got half of her pension, plus he'd have got the widow's benefit while he could have delayed his or whatever. So sometimes, and especially if your health is not that good and you're in a domestic partnership, maybe you want to put a ring on it. Okay. So
So you're
there's
saying
that.
you'd lose out on those benefits just by not being married, even they've been domestic partners for decades. Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
just by not being married because you didn't have a marriage certificate, so you got to put it on there, right? And we had already
Yeah,
said it's got to be at least 9 months that you are married to get those benefits.
yeah.
Yeah, so there it is.
So
Yeah,
if you have that situation, you have a domestic partner for decades. What are you waiting for, right? You might as well get that done. I mean, you're moving the same direction. You're working as a partnership. Why not get married? The benefits are there.
well, especially if their health, yeah, if their health is starting to fail. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good call. Well, see, this is, and again, just to put a little finishing touch on this particular conversation or this part of the conversation, it's good to have someone in your corner who can give you this information, who can guide you along. You know, we've talked about in other episodes the necessity of a plan. If you have a plan in place, you have someone guiding you, then you don't lose out on these little benefits that you may or may not know exist. And you know, you ultimately you're not leaving money on the table, and who wants to do that, right? What's the point of doing that? It
Yeah,
doesn't
especially
benefit
if
you.
it's from the government. Yeah, and you've been paying for your whole life while you work, right?
you
Yeah.
you've been paying all that social security, all those taxes for years. That's the idea of it. Great.
Yep.
So do you have a health tip for us today?
You better believe I do. But first, I got a picture for you.
All right.
Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it here, big boy. Here it is.
It's not a
Now,
picture of you
what
on a
is,
beach, is it?
no, it is not a picture of me on the beach, but it's right there. What are you looking
It's a
at?
copper water kettle.
It's a
Copper water
copper
kettle.
wire. Yeah, and then there's a copper teapot behind there. But let's just
Yep.
talk about copper and its benefits for water, for
Yep.
your drinking water. I know that sounds weird, but there's quite a few of them. Here, I'll read it to you because I also had to look it up. I'm going to tell you something. Now, we'll talk about filtering your water on another episode, but right now I just want to talk about the
Okay.
benefits of copper. And here's a weird thing. When we remodeled our house, we gutted it out. We're in Laguna Niguel, basically South Laguna Beach. We gutted it out.
Yep.
And when they came back in, we're talking 5 years ago, they came in with what? The PEX, that really thick plastic
Yep.
tubing. That's what's
That's
in
what it
now.
is.
Yeah, I
Yeah. We
really
had we
wish
had one
I
of those
would have
burst at our
gone.
house.
I really wish, honestly, Marcus, I would have gone to copper piping and spent the extra money,
Mm.
especially pre-COVID. Because I'll tell you why. Uh, Water passing through copper has a lot of benefits. And people could jump in on this if they want to and make comments. It says here copper helps improve digestion and prevents constipation and acidity. How about that? It raises your alkalinity. It has anti inflammatory properties, it boosts immunity, it improves brain and heart health, and it has an antibacterial effect. I think it also has positive charging, right? Because we're all electrochemical. If you were in
Yeah.
school and you ever had one of those static electricity things that your science teacher had, and he touched your metal on your
Yeah.
belt, and then you held hands with all your students and you made a ring.
Yeah.
We used to do that with Mr. O'Shell. I'm sure he's gone now in middle school back at Fort Couch, but we all got zinged right from that. So your body is
Yeah.
electrochemical. And so
Yeah.
charging yourself correctly and so I'm going to tell you something. We pour our filtered water every morning into that copper water kettle, and then I
Oh,
pour it
nice.
into my water container. It tastes better. I've noticed that the copper makes it taste even better. I really dig it.
Interesting. That's
So
good stuff. Yeah, I know it does clean the water up. I know about the antibacterial properties of the copper on the water. Interesting with the taste. That's good to know. So you're filtering it and then running it
yeah,
through the copper. Everything now is plastic tubing. So I wholeheartedly agree. Now we don't need to go back to the lead in the plumbing, but maybe go back to the copper in the plumbing.
yeah. I remember with Pasquale when I was roofing as a kid, when I was 17, 18, tearing out in the city of Pittsburgh, tearing off copper gutters and
Yeah.
downpipes. Yeah, and it would just fold. The stuff would fold up, but heavy stuff. And I think back and I think, man, oh man, people used to have copper around their houses. And my wife has told me that it actually has good electronic charging, maybe positive ions or something to that effect. And it's really good for you. copper. So there it is, another precious metal. Some people, you'll see
Copper.
they have copper bracelets that they wear. Yeah,
I've seen that.
there you
A
go.
lot of chefs will use copper also for cooking certain foods.
Interesting.
The copper is actually better for it. Yeah. So
Interesting for the flavor too, huh?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. That's it for today, Marcus. Yeah.
Excellent. So, a couple of things just to wrap up. Take away from today, we had some nice conversation about Social Security benefits. Get someone on your side who knows. We don't want to leave money on the table, especially after you've worked your entire life paying the government, paying taxes, paying your Social Security on time. Make sure you're getting the full benefit of that. Particularly if you are married and your spouse passes away, you want to make sure you get those benefits as well. And copper, give it a shot. Try a copper kettle, see what it does for you. Worst thing, it'll clean up your taste of your water, right, Charles?
That's
Make
right.
it taste a little bit better in the morning.
Yeah, and even if,
Fantastic.
and don't forget, even if you're divorced, you haven't remarried, you were married for at least 10 years or longer, you might get that widow's benefit.
Go get those benefits. Don't leave the money on the table. Well, we appreciate you as always tuning in. This has been the CD Financial Podcast, CD Financial, where health meets wealth. We look forward to seeing you next time. You all take care.
CD Financial, where health meets wealth.